Welcome to this week's Growing Wisdom, and today I'm here with my buddy Henry Pat, and we're going to be talking about how to plant a tree or a shrub in a root ball, what we call B&B in the sort of lingo, which means it's what? Balled and burlapped. I've established where I want the plant to go. Now what?
Now you want to look at the size of the root ball. I'd probably want to dig it close to 27, 28 inches wide for a root ball about 16 inches. Depth-wise, you only want to go down as deep as the root ball or even an inch less, so you have good drainage.
You want a nice base for the plant as you're establishing it. If you go down too deep, you're going to have the plant sitting on really loose soil, and you don't want the plant sitting on loose soil. You want it sitting on a nice flat base underneath there. Fall's a really good time to be doing this, right?
Oh yeah, the roots are going to do fabulous. They like cool weather, they're not stressed. And the other thing is, the ground really doesn't freeze around here till around Thanksgiving time. So, September, October, you've got close to, 30, 60, 65 days of good growing weather. So you're going to establish a new root system. Basically, if you dig a plant and it's in a ball and burlap, having the roots severed, you're going to lose all your feeder roots. It takes 30 to 45 days growing a new set of feeder roots on the main roots.
Oh.
And because of this, the plant needs that time to grow. You're actually ahead of the game by planting in the fall because you'll have an established new feeder root system going into the spring.
Got it.
So I won't feel the effects of having to make new roots.
It's going to come right out of the gate in the spring, and there it goes.
Right. They're really not too heavy, but with two people you can work a little bit better. Johnny, I like to put them in the center of the hole.
Now we need to do something called face it. So explain what facing means.
That means taking the best side of the plant. Generally, it's the side that has lower branches, lowest to the ground, a little bit of a slope or taper up to the top. That is what we call the face, or the nice side of the plant. That we would generally have facing out.
I get asked this question: do you take the burlap off or do you leave it on?
I would leave it on for two reasons. One is when you cut the rope and you untie the burlap, you lift the plant up, being moved around a couple of times in the nursery or garden center. It might have been dropped, so you might have some roots that are damaged that way. If you have a good chunk of soil attached to those roots, you're going to be breaking more roots off by pulling the burlap off.
Yes.
So that's one of the reasons I would prefer to leave the burlap on. The burlap will disintegrate in the ground. Generally, it's anywhere from 6 months to, I've had people say, 2 years.
Okay.
But as it disintegrates, it becomes food for the roots. Basically, what you do is you undo the burlap and just fold it back so it's flat against the root ball. So when you backfill it, you're going to have the burlap right up against the root ball in the backfill. You won't have many air cavities in there. So we've got the plant here. We've got the burlap off. It's level with the ground. It might be half an inch higher over here. And the burlap is down good. We're going to use this bag of planting mix, which we'll put around here.
All right, so just to summarize real quick while Henry's getting that soil, we've dug the hole. We have now taken out the backfill. Our backfill was pretty lousy, so we are not going to put that back in because it had a lot of stones and stone dust and it just wasn't good. We're going to add actual brand new soil into this particular rhododendron that we've planted. And remember, we've taken the burlap away. We've let the burlap sort of tuck underneath there, so that will break down. That's going to break down over time. And we've also brought the level of soil on the top of the burlap down so we can see the flare here at the very bottom of the rhododendron. You want to see that flare. If your soil level's up, bring it down so that you can see the flare here, and that's the correct height to plant this rhododendron.
We're going to add in some superphosphate. Phosphorus is the middle number on a regular fertilizer mix. That's the only fertilizer you would use in the backfill process. It's called superphosphate. And it's generally a handful for smaller size root balls. If you're planting trees, you generally use 2 handfuls. Superphosphate will not burn roots. If you use a regular fertilizer that has nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, If you put that in the hole, you're almost guaranteed to burn the roots, and 9 times out of 10 you'll kill your plant.
Okay, good to know. So you only want that middle number, the phosphate.
Right. So I'm going to put this in here about halfway around. You want to pack down your backfill pretty good so you don't have too many air pockets. And that way there, you shouldn't have any issues with disease in the root area.
And you want to put this at the top or right in where the roots are?
Right in where the roots are going to come out. So I'll sprinkle my handful around. I didn't have quite a whole handful here. And again, the superphosphate will not burn the roots. So I got my superphosphate mixed in. Now we're going to finish off filling the hole with the backfill.
Now you didn't have to do anything with breaking the bottom of the root ball up a little bit to get those roots exposed?
No, that's a process you get involved in if you're doing plants in a pot or a container. This here, where it was dug out of the field, the roots have been chopped off, they're cut. New roots growing out, they're going to grow out in the outward fashion because they're looking for new soil, they're looking for phosphorus.
So we don't have to tease the roots underneath.
Right, you don't have to do any more work on the root area.
Okay.
So I'll finish putting in your backfill here.
When you're doing this, guys, just pound down that soil. You want it nice and tight against the plant. You don't want any air pockets. Think about what would happen if a root started growing into an air pocket. It's going to be exposed to air, there'll be no water, there'll be no soil, and you'll get failure of the plant.
You can also use your foot to backfill it in and get rid of your air pockets.
Okay, so we're going to create just a little wall to keep the water in, really, right?
Right, you're creating a wall to keep the water in, and by doing that, when you water, your water won't be draining away and you won't be wasting your water.
And how far away from the plant's center do you want the moat?
I would generally keep it to the edge of the hole is where you would have that.
Okay.
If you run your container wall or your moat here, I would run it up maybe about 1 inch to 2 inches at the most.
Okay. So far, we've got it planted, we've built our little moat, we used the backfill to do that, and now it's watering time.
Right.
And how often do I do this?
Generally the day of planting, you'd want to water it 3 times. Kind of fill it up near the top of the moat, let the water drain down, fill up again your 2nd time, let it drain down, and then fill it up for the 3rd time. And that should be sufficient for the day of planting.
3 times right in a row?
Right. You're basically having the water go down through the backfill, getting rid of any small pockets that might have been created in the planting process.
And then thereafter, how much water?
There's 2 thoughts on this. One is watering it once a day for a week, stop. The other thought is once every other day for 2 weeks, stop. And then the most important factor is watering once a week to the middle of November when the ground starts to freeze.
All right, last step is the mulch. Tell me about how we're going to do this.
On the mulch, you want to put on about 2 inches on the average. Sometimes people put on 3 inches. That way you can keep the moisture in. It doesn't dehydrate quickly with the hot days in the growing season. And it also keeps the weeds down. And around the trunk, you always want to keep like around 2 inches away from the trunk, so you've got the top of the root ball exposed for about 2 inches. And the reason for that is it's allowing the root system to breathe. You don't want to smother your root system. The other reason is you might have mice make holes in there during winter months, and if you have mulch against the trunk, they can eat the bark off and destroy your plant.
All right, over the past couple of segments, we've shown you how to plant a shrub that is in burlap, and that's
Correct.
The key here. This is a burlap shrub, and eventually we'll show you how to do a container. And I just want to thank you, Henry, for coming on and showing me how to do that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Come back every week for all of our tips here at growingwisdom.com. Henry and I are going to do a little bit of watering as we close out this segment.